Hello everyone, Pulse here and welcome to another episode of Forging Fantasy, EverQuest Next. Now in this episode we're going to do something a little bit different, mainly because we're going to dedicate a full episode to a single roundtable question. Now normally this wouldn't be the case, however as SOE themselves has pointed out on their website lately, their latest roundtable question has really sparked a ton of chatter and discussion and in some cases some flame wars. So what is the all-important question that is about EverQuest Next that fans are all going crazy about? Well, their latest roundtable question is this: fast travel in EverQuest Next, love it or leave it? And then here are the options, and I'll give you the percentages for those who have answered thus far as we go through it. The first one is I want to get my group within 5 minutes wherever they are in the world. That's only got about a 9% vote rate at this point. I want a huge world, even if it means it takes 30 minutes getting to my group each night. That's got about 25%. Fast travel with limitations, such as only via player abilities or requiring you to visit the long way first. That's got about 43%. I would like a fast travel network between major cities/hubs only, not on the outside. That's about 23%. And then, as usual at the bottom, is no preference with a mighty hefty 1% vote. Now, as you guys can probably tell by the percentages there, the answers really come down to the middle three, with the lacking preference at the bottom there, again, holding zero weight in the argument. And I still think they just need to remove that option. It doesn't really contribute anything to the overall discussion. And then we have the first option that fast travel should be utilized in an abundance and allow players to travel wherever and whenever they want. Mostly, this option's been shut down by the fans that are following EverQuest Next. So let me start off with that first answer choice, and why is it being shot down so heavily? Well, it honestly seems like this would be the logical move, right, with the way that the market is going. And honestly, that's a fine assessment if you look at the way the MMO market is going. Fast travel and getting there quick is the way to do it. That's the technological world as we know it. However, EverQuest Next is really trying to break the mold with this and just trying to give us a different game while still holding on to the original draw of the MMO genre, which was really to get the player engrossed and immersed in an absolutely massive fantasy setting, which was crafted in a way that made exploration and discovery a major part of the game experience, and that's really been lost in MMOs as of late. Now, the main argument for the fast travel implementation like this, where it would just be all over the place, is that as adults that are following this game, there's a lot of fans that play the original EverQuest that maybe were kids or teens, whatever. Now they're adults, they're grown up, and now they have kids and hefty job schedules, and they have to visit their in-laws and bathe their pets and take their kids to soccer and all the other shit that comes along with growing up. They just don't have the time to play like they want to. They're limited time window that they're able to play. And I can easily sympathize with these guys. I mean, I don't even have kids, and yet my free time is nearly non-existent. I mean, just between my job and then doing the YouTube stuff and the busy in-between work that comes with living on your own as an adult, you run out of time. So I can easily see the appeal for the drop-in, drop-out MMO experience that comes along with being able to travel all over the place, and you just meet up with your friends for a couple minutes, an hour, 2 hours max, and you play, and then you just go to bed, you say goodbye, whatever. But the argument on the other hand is that with fast travel implemented this way, if I could talk, it makes the game lose one of its biggest pillars of design. And within a short time after the game's release, the massive scope will be lost, and we will end up with a WoW style scenario where everyone just congregates to one place, and you wait to instantly travel to your group or whatever other kind of content you're waiting on doing. And the thing is, MMO players just don't want this anymore. If you've played MMOs from the beginning of the genre, you didn't hop in after it started taking hold. If you've been playing it for a long time, you just don't really want this anymore. You don't want to play a game that is essentially a lobby. If you wanted to play games where you sat around and waited, you would play games with the separate lobby system in place, and those games are created with this very idea in mind. You queue up for your content, you pop in, you have some fun, you pop back out, and you either queue up again, or you go about your real life day, or you do something else. There's no travel, there's no hassle, as it were, and it sounds great, right? But that's not a role-playing game. That's not an RPG, that's not immersive, that's not believable. And that's a big part of EverQuest and EverQuest Next. And the fans that are following this game are pretty adamant in their longing and this wanting for the game that is EverQuest Next to move away from these modern MMO design choices and really recapture the nearly lost sense of immersion that can actually come from being an MMO. So they don't want them to replicate this idea that you just sit in a lobby. They really want to avoid this at all costs. So then that leaves me with what I'll call for this situation kind of the big three answers. We've got the long travel times with pretty much zero fast travel systems implemented. You have the option of only through player abilities or taking kind of the quote-unquote long way first, which is kind of akin to the WoW style. And then you have the interconnected system of fast travel hubs, mostly between major cities and gathering places. Now, let me get into the longing for like the long-ass run times first, I guess. I understand, but to the people who are voting for this one, I have to ask, please stop being overly nostalgic about stuff. I know it's very hard, because those are the games that left the impression on you. I mean, truly, look, I understand where you're coming from with this. Back in Vanilla WoW and Burning Crusade and all that good stuff, the feeling that you get from running a new character to Deadmines from Orgrimmar, or from running all the way to Shadowfang Keep from Stormwind, it truly gave me a real sense of accomplishment. But in retrospect, I can easily see that running on foot for ages was not fun at all, and the only reason I didn't fall asleep on my keyboard was that I had friends talking to me in the chat system, or on Vent, or on Mumble, or what have you. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't want EverQuest Next to remove the sense of accomplishment that comes from exploration and just discovering the world, but running everywhere all the time simply isn't fun, especially if it's not quick and the adventure itself isn't engaging. But I'll come back to my thoughts on running from place to place in just a few moments. So that really leaves only two real things left here. That leaves the player abilities plus the long way first, or the major city hub fast travel network thing. Which, in my eyes, these two things need to really be combined into one answer. The city hub travel network should indeed be in place, but what about this idea? I've seen this idea from a couple people, and it's basically that, what if they implemented the quote-unquote easy way through the network of fast travel hubs kind of throughout the world, but through SOE's rallying cries and the dynamic events and the destruction that could come from these events and so on and so forth, could make the fast travel network vulnerable in some capacity. So one of the examples somebody put up on a forum I recently read said something like, well, maybe you'll have the portals or the train station or what have you in a city, right? And then suddenly a ludicrously sized beast or golem rampages through a city from a rallying cry, and in the carnage of it all and in the destruction that he reaps, the fast travel system in that city is kind of lost in some fashion, is damaged. And then over time after the event, the NPC denizens and the players would help out as well. They kind of have to work together in some way, maybe through some questing content. They could implement this as a major content patch, honestly. They could add this as a big kind of bring the characters together, bring the players together to do something, and they'll have to kind of rebuild the city, and in doing so they'll rebuild the fast travel. Or maybe they could even make it so that the destruction that comes with this will make the NPCs branch out from the center of their city and make it grow. Or maybe even it would shrink so badly that it eliminates its status as a major city hub, or it wouldn't quite meet the requirements for having the fast travel in the first place. And this idea then stems off back towards traveling by foot, because you have the dynamic events. The ability for the world to change with its destruction and generation, coupled with what they're calling the emergent AI that SOE has really promised would travel, really be that bad? Would it be that bad to go outside of the cities and travel by foot instead of by instant teleportation or by bullet train or by flight path or whatever you want to call it? The thing is, with EverQuest Next, the adventure is supposed to be part of the content. That is supposed to be substantial. That is not supposed to be something that we relegate to the boring part of the game and then we ignore it once we hit level cap. That's one of the biggest ideas driving EverQuest Next towards forward in its development. And I think we just need to have faith in SOE's ability to deliver an adventure that is worthwhile and not look at this game like any other MMO experience where we rush to that level cap as kind of like rule number one when you load up the game and you get into it. But to just think of it that the overall experience is what's important. In addition, we can't forget that they've shown off the parkour elements and the ability to move fairly quickly by foot, and they've also mentioned that mounts will be in the game in some fashion. So running from place to place may actually be one of the best parts of the game overall, and experience the ever-changing expansiveness of EverQuest Next is going to be a big part of the content. So maybe fast travel just doesn't work quite the same way in this game as it would in typical MMOs. So here's really where I stand on the issue overall. I think we need to allow fast travel in some capacity. Make it limited enough that exploration and discovery is still very important, potentially through the idea of making it vulnerable, like I said, where you have the dynamic events and the rallying cries bringing destruction and change, and allowing the players and the NPCs to react and change the world by themselves. If SOE delivers on the promises for the engaging AI and the engaging world, I think that by running on foot and by mount, the adventure that could come by EverQuest Next and systems could really make this idea of you are an adventurer walking your path. It could make it come back. It could make that part of the game actually intriguing and worthwhile and interesting to play, and not so laborious and boring. So as far as a vote, I'm pretty indecisive, mainly because I truthfully believe that the solution is not like one answer over another. I really think that they need to jam these all together, and I think the answer is kind of a culmination of all of these ideas. If I had to absolutely pick one though, just kind of assuming that SOE would implement one idea and scrap the others, and I don't think that'll be the case in any way, to be honest, but if it was, I would have to give it to the fast travel with limitations, such as only through player abilities and requiring you to visit the long way first. But I would have to put on kind of a caveat on that, minus the player ability part, because I kind of think that's nonsense playing WoW and whatnot. It honestly just makes people frustrated about which class they have and then the teleportation thing. But I'm not going to go into that right now. Perhaps another episode of Forging Fantasy EverQuest Next. But you guys will have to stay locked to Noble Pulse Gaming to find out more. But yeah, guys, that'll do it for me today. That'll wrap things up for me on this episode of Forging Fantasy EverQuest Next. Let me know in the comments below what you think of fast travel and MMOs in general, and what would your preferences be for EverQuest Next, because honestly, it's just a tough call no matter how you look at it, and I really have to sympathize with SOE on this, because no matter what they choose, they're going to upset some people. So let me know what you guys are thinking, or maybe we can help them out in their decision. So yeah, guys, thanks so much for watching, and if you're not subscribed already, by all means hit that upcoming subscribe button in the corner for tons more of EverQuest Next and MMO coverage from Noble Pulse Gaming. Make sure to leave a comment and give a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, even in the slightest. This has been Pulse, bringing you more EverQuest Next goodness, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.